Okay, so hello, J.MAK students, and welcome back to our MAK.STERS classes by J.MAK. Thank you for being here with us to learn more about travel through Ireland and Scotland, thanks to Hooray with Gather DMC. For those that don't know me, I'm Meg Crosby, hospitality personality at J.MAK based in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can always reach me and our team at hi@jmak.com for any questions about any of our partners. I'll put that in the chat box for everyone to see, but our email address is always hi@jmak.com. And then I'll also put Ray's information as well too on his partner page and his J.MAK email address. Today, after Hooray's presentation, we will open the floor for a brief Q&A session. And then we're going to be continuing our MAK.STERS class sessions with Journey J2 collection. So kind of a rebranding there. It'll be Ivana from Journey to Croatia. She's kind of rebranded to include Montenegro and Slovenia. That will be on January 16th at 2 p.m. You can register through the events page on jmak.com. So thank you so much again for all of your continued support. And Ray, without further ado.
Happy days. Well, first and foremost, if anybody's wondering why I'm in my attic, there's a very valid reason for that. I have 4 children, and if they were all loose around the house and I wasn't up here, we would have continuous interjections, and I'd spend the whole time going to that door. So I'm hiding out in my house, so to speak, because it is just after 7 p.m. in Ireland, and the kids are all around the house going crazy. So I'm trying to get as much silence and peace and quiet as I can, which is why I'm where I am. So I might share my screen and take you through a quick introduction to everything Ireland and Scotland. And as Meg said, then we'll maybe do Q&A at the end once we get all the amazing things covered for these 2 wonderful destinations. So everybody has my screen, I hope.
Yep, good to go.
Good to go. So we'll begin in Ireland, which is where I'm based. This is Team Gather. I even wore the same coat today, so you'd recognize me in the photo. How did I do? So we are a DMC based in Ireland and in Scotland. So we have people in both destinations. So we sell Ireland and Scotland, but we do that from in country. So we're not selling from afar. We have people on the ground in both destinations. We started in 2016. I started in hospitality 31 years ago. I know, I don't look that old. Super young, worked in a pub when my friend's parents had a pub, and I worked there when I was 12 years old, and I did that for 1 week every year for 13 years. Did an undergrad in business, worked all the way through college in pubs and restaurants and hotels, and every role I've had since I left college many years ago has been in hospitality. So while Gather is in situ since 2016, I've been in the hospitality industry since I think 1995 or something like that, something crazy. And then my team are all people that I've known or worked with all through the years, except for one gentleman who's down the bottom right of that picture as you look, who I'll tell you about later. He is my brother-in-law, and he's involved in another business with me, which I'll get to later in the presentation. So some interesting facts about Ireland, things that you will naturally know and some things that you might not know. So 7,000 pubs, yes, we like the odd pint or two. Only about 10% of us have red hair. I have hardly any hair, not even red or any other color. Interesting thing though is that the average age is about 34, so it's quite a young population. A lot of people think of Ireland, they think of, you know, lots of churches, lots of castles, lots of old things, and all of those things are there. But there's also a really young, bustling population. We have 10 of the top 10 tech companies in the world: Google, Facebook, Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, PayPal, etc., all based in Ireland with their European offices. We've 8 of the top 10 pharma companies. So we have a really cool mix of really old structures and buildings, a really young, bustling population, and a great pub scene, which is all a kind of a melting pot of excitement. The largest city, Dublin, has 1.2 million people. Most of the access tends to be into Dublin, with some into Shannon. We have US Customs on both of those locations. So when you're returning home, you clear US customs and land home as a domestic passenger, which I know, Meg, you have experienced and loved. But most of the lift is into Dublin predominantly. There's kind of a few different loops depending on the number of days. If it's a 5 or 6 day, you're either going Dublin into the west coast towards Galway and then looping down towards the Shannon region and maybe picking up Killarney, or vice versa. You're coming Dublin to Kilkenny, heading towards Cork into Killarney up into the Shannon region. If you've slightly more time, or that loop could take you into Northern Ireland through Belfast. Dublin to Belfast is about 90 minutes, so it's a super easy trip. And if you have a 7, 8, 9 day, then you could work in somewhere like a much longer trip to fit in Killarney, Shannon region, Galway, Belfast, and back into Dublin. While it's quite a small country, the driving outside of the motorways is challenging. And that's one of the reasons why we are driver guide only and not self-drive. When we first began in 2016, we did driver guide, I think, for about 2 years at the beginning. And we did an analysis and discovered that we were spending about 30% more time on those trips because people needed so much more information to drive on the opposite side of the road over here and on the opposite side of the car. And then they kept getting lost. So guides are calling us in, where are they? We're trying to contact them. We're reorganizing things. Guides have to leave. So after about 2 years of that, we said, okay, no, this is just a resource drain that we can't afford to apply. So it is driver guide for us only in Ireland and in Scotland. Lots and lots of castles. I guess the big difference between Ireland and Scotland is in Ireland you have Ashford, Adair, Dromoland, you could say Ballyfin, all which are amazing 5-star castles. You have Ballyseedy Castle, Kilkee Castle, all in the 4-star market, Clontarf Castle. So tons of castles that are hotels. In Scotland, most of the castles are actually private rentals. So you can't stay in a castle as a hotel, with the exception of 1 or 2, which are more modern built castles to look like castles rather than authentic 17th, 16th, 15th century castles. Amazing buildings all over the country, including the Long Room Library in Dublin. The food is amazing, and Meg, you can speak to this. That nod will suggest that you enjoy the food. A lot of people don't expect the food to be that good, and quite honestly, when I was a child in the 80s, it really wasn't. But thankfully, a lot of people who left in the 70s and 80s returned in the 90s when Ireland became a much richer country, and they brought all that experience with them. We always had amazing produce because we were a nation of growers and we live on an island, so we're surrounded by seafood. We just, for some reason, considered boiling it to be the best method of getting the best flavor from food, and everybody knows that is a success story. Thankfully, the chefs that returned from Milan and London and New York brought with them loads of different methods of cooking and different ingredients. And the food scene is really amazing, and nowhere better than in Belfast. You could do a 1 Michelin star dinner with a wine pairing in Belfast for probably about $130. So exceptional value and amazing food. Lots of iconic scenery, lots of green, amazing hiking and outdoors, because we are an island nation, and the best parts of that country are along the shorelines. Really cute villages. We have no restrictions in terms of what color you paint your house, as you'll clearly see from this picture. We have designs, ethics that you have to follow, but you can paint your house whatever color, which creates so many really cool small towns and villages with lots of character all around the country. The odd rainbow, again, referring to Meg, she was fascinated by the rainbows in Ireland. I, on the other hand, see them pretty much nearly every day from August through to probably this time of the year. So I was less enthralled. I will tell you that when I was a child, I had an idea that if I got at least 50 people, I could surround the rainbow and I'd get a pot of gold, but I never managed to get the crowd to do that. But there's still an option. Amazing golf all over the country. So both in Ireland and in Scotland, you have incredible golf, and lots of great links golf courses. Some great cruisers along the coast as well. Lots of great foraging. In terms of experiences, you have on the top of the picture there, you see a lady called Sadie Chohan, who was voted by Forbes magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in beauty. You can do an amazing perfume making course where you can make your own signature scent. Mine is naturally called Hooray. It's not in stores just yet, but it's coming. I'm trying to keep it relatively exclusive for now. Below on the larger picture, you have a wonderful lady called Louise, who was 2 years ahead of me in school, and she literally has $2 million worth of whiskey in a shed on a farm on the West Coast, where you drive up a dirt road onto a farm and she opens a shed with $2 million worth of whiskey in it. We do that a lot as part of a whiskey experience. And why we love it, outside of the fact that she has amazing whiskey, is that it feels like a really unique experience. You don't feel like there's 40 people behind you and 40 people ahead of you. It's just you and the farm. She's a wonderful little pony on the farm and a horse, and the cows are there, and you feel like you're in somebody's home as opposed to part of a commercial experience. But lots and lots of experiences all over the country. These are some of our friends, the gentlemen all playing here from right to left. You have Sean playing bagpipes, Dermot's on the guitar, and Jimmy's on the other guitar. They're all part of a band called Black Band Folk. In Dublin, they do a pubs and music tour for us. So rather than using a musician or a guide, we use a musician, and you head off with actually a local musician. And these boys I've known since, well, Sean I've known since I worked in that pub when I was 12. Jimmy I've probably known since I was about 15 or 16. And right across to the lady who's dancing, Siobhan, who I've also known since I worked in that pub. She was the lead dancer in Riverdance for 7 years. And she does private showcases for us. Paul on the bottom makes hand designed leather gloves, which have featured in the front cover of Vogue many times. They've been in House of Gucci. The lady with the glasses, the chef at the top right, is actually Bono's private chef, Audrey, and she's a good friend of ours. So lots and lots of great people and characters that we know and love and have access to. The gentleman here we're looking at is actually a guy called Jordan Bailey. He's a 2-Michelin star chef. And recently we had him cook dinner for some clients in his home, which you'll see in the large picture. And actually the young lad who's at the table prepping has just left to go to Percé. And he's going from there to French Laundry. So quite the experience, but totally unique. It was a family of 8, and it was a private experience in his house. So that was literally a call from me to say, hey, Jordan, I have this family. Any chance I could borrow your house for a few hours and you could cook them dinner? And he was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So we have quite a lot of those kind of people in our repertoire. And I always say that if we don't, I have the neck of a giraffe. So I'll ask anybody for anything, anytime. And the worst they can say is no, right? So the more we learn and more we know about clients, the more we can add in. And that doesn't have to be like a super elaborate experience. It might be somebody that's, for instance, is a lawyer, and there's an original copy of the Magna Carta in Christchurch Cathedral in Dublin. It's about $14 to go in. But if you're a lawyer, that's quite a cool experience just to see that. So it doesn't have to be a hugely expensive experience, but it's about knowing the information of the clients and then trying to do something with it. It could be something like this is obviously a more elaborate experience for Halloween. Halloween began in Ireland. We created custom Celtic masks. We had an artist design them, and then we decorated one of the rooms at Adair for a private experience for them, which went down a treat. All across Ireland, you have loads and loads of festivals, be it music festivals, food festivals, literary festivals, opera festivals. Like literally from May through the end of October and into early November, there are festivals in every town and village across the country. And then over to the land of mystery and things that are whispered in the wind, as they say, to Bonnie, Scotland. 9,000 years of history here. So again, lots and lots of history, 1,500 castles, 140 distilleries. So I guess as a reference point, there are 140 distilleries in Scotland, thereabouts. There's probably currently about 30 in Ireland. So a lot more distillery options in Scotland. I'll say this, well, you're putting this on YouTube, so I shouldn't really say it as an Irish person. I probably prefer Macallan whiskey to Irish whiskey, so I'm kind of more of a Scotch drinker. But maybe you could edit that, Meg. The official animal is something that is always interesting to people. I wonder if anybody knows in the chat what the official animal of Scotland is. So we have 30 seconds to identify that in the chat. And I brought, do you remember what it was, Meg?
No.
I brought a helper.
Oh my gosh. It's like you, Ray. It's a unicorn.
It's a unicorn, and that is the national animal of Scotland. Now, this unicorn I don't normally have for presentations, but it'll be a Christmas present for one of my kids. So it's hiding in the attic, locked
It's
away.
so authentic looking. I love it.
Yes. So yeah, the unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. And sometimes people go, that's crazy, but Scotland is quite a mythical land, and obviously the unicorn is a mythical animal. So it works really well as what they are. Edinburgh is the best city for me. I loved it so much that I actually proposed to my wife in Edinburgh, and we got engaged there. It beats Dublin hands down. And again, I shouldn't be saying that as an Irish person, but it has so much character. The buildings are amazing. Like everywhere you look, you're like, oh my God, this place is brilliant. It is probably one of my favorite cities, and probably my favorite city in the world. Tons and tons to do, really great options. You have incredible hotels like the Balmoral. This is the clock tower actually of the Balmoral we're looking at right here in the new town. You have New Gleneagles Townhouse opened, Red Carnation are opening on Princess Street, a new hotel in April it's tasked for, with designs inspired by Alexander McQueen. So quite an interesting take for Edinburgh, because a lot of what's there is quite traditional. So it will be good to see something a little bit different. Really good mix of 4- and 5-star options in Edinburgh, and then you're off into the wilderness of the Highlands. I think Scotland for me beats Ireland very much when you move into the Highlands. So the wilderness is far more impressive than it is in Ireland, and the hiking for avid hikers like that want to hike mountains, it's Scotland over Ireland. If they're more a moderate hiker, there's great options on both destinations, but if they're serious hikers, then you're getting into the Highlands pretty much. Loads of castles, as I mentioned, the odd Highland cow here and there. Balmoral Castle, actually, we're one of only 2 companies that can guide inside. We have an amazing guide and that we use in that area, and she has access inside, and she's actually also a whiskey aficionado. So for anyone that's looking for even a taster, and it's often nice because the person doing it, I find often that ladies want to approach whiskey, but they feel that it's kind of intimidating and that it's a male only issue. So I think with this particular lady, because she's a brand ambassador for a number of the big distilleries, they feel more comfortable because they're in the company of a fellow female. The playground, and absolutely deserved playground of the gods at Gleneagles Virtuoso Hotel of the Year this year, has so many things to do. We typically end our trips at Gleneagles because we always feel no matter what else has happened, if the weather hasn't been pleasant, or they found that the driving was excessive, because Scotland, even more than Ireland, the distances are quite short, but the roads are challenging. When you finish at Gleneagles, you know they're going home happy. And there is literally so much to do. Like they have multiple tennis courts, archery, clay pigeon shooting, multiple golf courses. They have 27 horses on property, off-road driving. Like the list is endless. Gun dogs. They have so many things to do that it's always a 2 to 3 day kind of sit down and chill out at the end of the trip for us, and really great for families. And actually, in terms of some of our, let's call them Scottish friends, the people here, the 4 in the main picture, Zoe, who's holding the fiddle, I used to date when I was 13, and her husband John behind me, both of those played at my wedding many years ago. Still really good friends of ours, and Julie and Eamon are with them, who are, through John and Zoe, are good friends of mine. Julie actually sang the entire soundtrack to Brave, the Disney movie. She lives outside Inverness, and on probably 2 occasions now, I would say, I've had place to call and said, hey, I've got an American family, the kids love Brave, any chance you could pop into the pub and just sing a couple of tunes, and off she goes. So the reach in terms of trying to create unique experiences for people that, again, don't cost the earth. I know she sang the Disney movie, but when it's a favor for a friend, it doesn't come with that Disney price tag. Let me tell you, it's a far more affordable price. Fraser here on the left, who I will say, if he knew that I had a less than flattering photo of him, he would be less than impressed, let's say, but he is the best guide in Scotland, and he's also a member of the Scottish Whisky Society. And up on the top right, we have a wonderful friend of ours who's shaking the hand of the now King, and she is an atelier that has designed for the royal family. So lots and lots of really cool options all over the country. be that off-road driving or getting tickets to tattoo and having private guides go with them, to your regular or more normal city tours. In both the Dublin and in Edinburgh, we tend to recommend at least doing a half-day walking tour on the first morning, because usually the flights are in early, the rooms are not ready, and then at least it gets people comfortable and acclimated with the city they're in, and they feel more comfortable to explore from there on their own if they so wish, or more planned if they'd like. We've done everything from private dinners on the Queen's original private yacht in Edinburgh to golf. And on the golf piece, the gentleman that I mentioned earlier in the picture is a guy called Christopher O'Brien, my brother-in-law, and with him I recently bought a golf tour operator. So we now have guaranteed tee times at the Old Course St Andrews, not for 2024 because those were sold in 2023. So we are currently dealing with 2025 inquiries. Most of the golf in Ireland and Scotland is sold at this point for 2024, with the exception of the odd 1 and 2 and 3. But if you have anybody that's looking for a 4-ball or more, you are not going to get on the premium courses at this point for 2024 unless you're looking at mid-October. But high season sold out. So I would be, anybody that's asking you for that, I would be if they're golfers specifically, that recommendation needs to be, they need to be considering 2025 at this point, because that will start to fill pretty quickly for 2025. Now, hotels and golf courses won't open their 2025 books until April, May, June, depending, each course opens differently. But what they do is if we submit a request now, it goes on file, and then when they eventually open their books, they take those reservations in order of which they were received. So you will get the best tee times and more likely to get the days you want if you're submitting between now and mid to late January for 2025. So that's unfortunately the way golf has gone since COVID, that people are planning golf much further out than they were before. Historically, we would regularly have gotten to February, March, April of a year and still been able to get tee times through the summer, but I'm afraid not anymore. So in a quick synopsis, that is Ireland and Scotland at speed. How did we do, Megasis?
Awesome.
See Megasis? You're kind of like a Pegasus. See what I did?
Exactly. The unicorn and the Pegasus. So yeah, I mean, I think that was a great quick run through of 2 countries. No big deal. This is why Hooray is one of our favorites. He is the king of Ireland and Scotland. Well, listen, I have to edit this video too, okay? I can't, we got other partners at J.MAK. Got to be diplomatic here. So what we do love about Ray for sure is, and I laugh all the time, is that if he has not dated or gone to school or worked with or is cousins with someone that he works with, then they don't need to be working with your clients. So that's what we love about them. So we do have some quick questions for sure. So Sherry has a question about budget. So how much should a family of 4 budget for a week trip to Ireland, roughly mid-range, and then 5-star?
So with driver guide experiences in hotels, probably a mix of 4 and 5-star, I would say, starting at about 21-ish thousand, I would say, somewhere thereabouts, depending on like high season, right? So if they're going low season, then it's going to be more affordable, but I would say that's probably where you're going to be at.
And then does that change for Scotland pricing?
It's slightly more expensive in Scotland because you're dealing with pounds, which are about 15-20% more expensive. So so you're talking probably 22,000 pounds, which is going to be slightly more expensive in terms of a dollar changeover.
Okay. Is September still high season for both countries?
Yes, it is. And a lot of that is actually driven by the amount of golfers that travel. There's a lot of empty nesters come to Ireland and Scotland in September to play golf particularly, and that means that September remains high season in both destinations.
Whitney is curious if the restaurants are as good in Dublin as in Edinburgh.
Yes, they are. I'd actually say the food in Ireland is better than in Scotland. But all both really good options, and lots of options, from great gastropubs to good restaurants right up to excellent Michelin stars. So there's every level in both destinations in terms of affordability. And we generally recommend that, you know, particularly for families, that they have something booked at least every other night, so that they have placeholders and then they have more flexibility. But we don't generally suggest that they leave it wide open, and we book restaurants. So as part of the trip, once the trip is confirmed, we look back closer to arrival date, send a list of restaurants for each destination, so that people can pick and choose, and then we get in and book all those and manage that for them as well.
That was by far, like you said, Ray, probably the biggest takeaway for me from our trip together in Ireland was do not sleep on the food in Ireland. I thought it was going to be fish and chips and disgusting, and it was so far from it. When you're talking farm to table, you literally know the name of the pig that you're eating. In a good way. It's so fresh. I mean, the seafood, the amount of, and truly too, I think the other takeaway is also the activities. You can do Ireland where you're seeing castles and kind of going through the countryside. This is Ireland specifically, and probably Scotland. I'll need to find out maybe next year, Ray. Do we do a FAM? Huh?
Yeah, I think we need to. Yeah, we need to, Meg. We got you rolling your sleeves up already. Yeah.
Yep. So, but for Ireland for sure. I mean, some people think of it as kind of like the sleepy, but it was so cool to experience the coastline too, and like you can surf. I mean, there's so many different activities out there. The perfumery was definitely a highlight. Yeah, so really some really tailored, customized experiences, which is super cool.
Well, and that's true of Scotland too. Like, you know, people often think of Scotland in terms of whiskey and golf, but there's so much more once you peel back the layers. Like incredible pottery experiences, amazing chocolatiers that's won like world famous awards, ateliers that I mentioned that will design everything from your own kilt if you so wish, to the most amazing like wool scarves and linen scarves, and right up to moderate to wild hikes, off-road driving, caving, you name it, it can be done.
Really cool.
And all safe for families and kids. So nothing too crazy that you couldn't say would be kids. And the great thing, I guess, with us is that I have 4 kids from 16 to 6 and have road tested pretty much every activity there is. So I can roll out for any call you want an age profile that will tell you their honest opinion on any one of and all of those experiences. I think, yes, we are seeing, sorry, I just noticed a question about Thanksgiving. We see a lot of people traveling now for Thanksgiving week, and a lot of the hotels in Ireland and Scotland will do a combined Thanksgiving dinner for guests. Some do really elaborate, and actually we see a lot of people traveling now for festive. We have quite a lot of people on the ground in Ireland and in Scotland for festive. Most of the hotels do, or I should say a lot of the 5-star hotels do residential programs, so they're a 3-day program, and a mix of price points, so from the very elaborate down to the more affordable. And there's tends to be lots of great activities. Like in Ireland, one of the biggest things to do on St. Stephen's Day is to go horse racing. It's a huge national event where there's horse racing festivals all over the country at, again, different sizes, and people get out again and explore. And a lot of our clients that have done that are like, wow, that was a really cool experience, because you feel like you're living like a local in the Christmas period.
Perfect. So Amy had a quick question, and I just want to tack on to it too. She's asking if there are options for 4-star type clients. And then I'm curious if Ray, which I haven't seen a lot of from the inquiries that come through with J.MAK, but about like villas. Do you see people do villas in hotels, a mix of that at all?
Yeah, so on the 4-star, so we don't have a set list of hotels. So we will work with the hotels in the location that suit the client budget and style. So if it's a 4-star budget, we can work to that for absolutely for certain. While we don't have a set list of hotels, we only work with hotels that we have personally been inside the door of and seen the rooms of. So there are lots and lots of hotels all over Ireland and in Scotland, particularly in the 4-star market, that we have not seen because we can't see every single hotel. But those that we have seen and we're comfortable, and there's lots we've seen that we wouldn't work with, but those that we've seen and we love, we certainly recommend. So we don't have limitations in terms of certain hotels being on our books. It is fairly endless, with the odd exception where we've vetted it and said this is not for us. But yes, we do get some villa requests, particularly with multi-gen families. And again, both of those destinations, Ireland and Scotland, are superb for multi-gen because you have such a mix of variety of activities, experiences, great food options, and I guess you could say small towns that often people can go explore on their own and not feel like that they've left for 5 hours in a city and they're not really seeing the multi-gen. So everywhere is small enough that for people to feel like they're together, but still big enough to have time apart if they so wish during their trip. So yeah, the villas come in mostly on the multi-gens.
Is there a minimum budget per couple that you require to work with an itinerary?
No, there isn't. I would say probably there's a practical minimum as opposed to a minimum. And that depends on how many days they're traveling, and like we've trips that some run for 3 days and some run for 15 days. But there isn't a minimum spend per day with us. But that said, like I had an inquiry today from somebody who is traveling for 12 days and they have $6,000. Like that isn't a practical budget. If you have a private driver and you want to stay in a 4-star hotel or a 5-star hotel and you want to have experiences, that's just not going to fly. Unfortunately, that might stretch to a self-drive budget, I would think. But yeah, it needs to be higher than that. Sorry to be direct, but that's the reality.
Can you help plan itineraries that include music festivals in Ireland?
100%. There are very few musicians in this country that I do not know.
Oh my God, did you know the guy from
oh, here you go, you're going to ruin it now by asking me somebody that I don't know.
No, what's the guy on The Voice that's the coach now? He's from Ireland. He was in One Direction.
Oh yeah, Niall from One Direction.
Niall, do you know him?
I know who he is. I do not know him personally though. No. He's a good guy though. He's a man that is very close to his roots. He never really lost his sense of identity of where he's from. He did a really cool series last year with Lewis Capaldi, a Scottish singer, where they traveled around Ireland recording, and then he went into his hometown and took over the original pub that he would have kind of hung out in, and did a big set with Lewis Capaldi, and it was family and friends only invited. So so the music festival piece is easy to do. So that pub that I mentioned at the beginning that I worked in for 13 years, 1 week every year, it was for a large Irish music festival, and the very best of Irish musicians came into my pub every year, like the coolest of cool people. So, and they're all living in this little phone now. So yeah, no problem with music itineraries. It's super easy for us.
All right, and we're gonna wrap it up with this question. Do you do Kenmare? Kenmare?
Oh yes, we do Kenmare. I love Kenmare. You were in Kenmare, remember, Meg?
Yes.
What did we do in Kenmare, Meg?
I don't remember.
Food tour.
Oh, we did. Yes.
We did, yeah, and we saw Sheen Falls. Yes, Kenmare is a super town. I would say that the great food tour with Karen Coakley. Yeah, that's the woman. Kenmare is a fabulous town. Really great shopping, incredible arts and crafts, great art galleries, really great restaurants. You have Sheen Falls outside of town, and then the Park Kenmare in town. The park has just been purchased by an Irish American guy, and a refurb in hand there. So waiting to see what that's going to look like. But yeah, Sheen Falls is a great option just on the edge of town if somebody's looking at Kinmare. So that is it. Kinmare.
Definitely. I love that you could go to like your florist shop and then like your butcher shop in Kinmare. You go to your wine store. It's like all the little stores that you go to build up your, dinner for the evening or whatever. So
exactly, and it's all like, and it's a pretty eclectic town, with you have a lot of different cultures. So from Irish and English and French and some Polynesian. So it's a like a small melting pot of cultures, all bringing their different food and artisan culture to the town. It's probably my favorite small town in Ireland, I would say. Says you everywhere, small town in Ireland. There's no big ones.
Fabulous. Okay, so last call for any questions. So Donna has a quick one. Do you require a hotel reservation to book other details of a trip?
Yes. Yes, because otherwise we could be booking stuff that is not confirmed. And at least if we know people have reservations and hotels, they're committed to a trip.
So not necessarily you need the hotel to go through you, but you have to know.
No, we do not need the hotel to go through us. It is easier for our peace of mind if the hotel goes through us, because then at least we have oversight. We've had probably, I'd say, 3 times it's happened to us where we didn't manage the hotels and the hotel changed, we didn't know, and the driver picked up at a different hotel, and it wasn't a case of being 2 blocks away. It was a significant distance away, which made it challenging. What are your holiday plans? My holiday plans involve a big turkey dinner, 4 children, my lovely wife, and lots and lots. So my wife is a pastry chef. So there will be lots and lots of treats in our house. We usually go to my mother-in-law's on Christmas Eve, and all of that family get together. And then I live beside my mom and dad and my brother. I actually live on a farm on the west coast of Ireland. So I'm in the countryside. So we'll see my parents on Christmas morning, and then we'll have Christmas together. Us as a family, as in my core family. That is it for Hooray.
The cat, dog, and my husband. It's our first Christmas as a married couple.
Oh yeah. Aww. Happy days. So who's cooking?
No one. We'll probably do like some Chinese order in,
Okay. Traditional Chinese cooking dinner. Yeah, sounds good, Meg. Yeah, good job.
I may do some like homemade dumplings. We'll see. But yeah, cooking's for the birds.
Cooking of the birds.
And of them.
So Leslie, who's one of my colleagues who's in Edinburgh, so they do a 3-bird roast and a 5-bird roast. So literally birds in, birds in, birds.
Oh, like a turducken?
I don't know what a turducken is. But...
like a turkey, a duck, and a pigeon or something?
Yeah, they're all in each other. Yeah. So she'll be doing that for Christmas with her parents.
How to enjoy that.
I know, right? Yeah. That's tradition.
That's something.
That's the festive tradition in Scotland. So any other questions on Ireland or Scotland? Turkey, duck, chicken.
Turkey, duck, chicken. Oh yeah, that makes way more sense. What did I say? A pigeon? Ew. Thanks, Amy. Okay, perfect. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining. If you have any other questions for Hooray, you can always reach out to him through the J.MAK email address, and be sure to copy us in. So excited for the golf update too. This is super exciting news.
Yep.
And we love working with Ray. I mean, the bespoke itineraries are just out of this world. Can't wait for you guys to experience it with your clients. So yeah, that's us. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, everybody.
You're the best.
Bye from the attic.
Bye,
I can go
everyone.
find my kids again now.
From my helicopter tour.
Bye-bye.
Bye.